Hey, thank you for tuning in, folks. And so many people, since we started to go live again yesterday, so many people are just outraged that the mainstream media are in lockstep, forcing this absolute BS, Saddam Hussein as weapons of mass destruction pretext down our throats yet again. But it's Iran this time. Surprise, freaking surprise. And I will be showing you a montage soon of clips of Netanyahu saying this exact same garbage going back decades. But firstly, huge thank you to Garland Nixon for coming back on the channel. His time has come, folks. He's almost at 100,000 subs. I'm putting his link to his channel in the live chat right now. If you're watching on replay, the channel link is in the description box. Please support Garland's work. All the other guys, all of his colleagues, Scott Ritter, Colonel Douglas McGregor, Danny Haifong, Nima, all these guys, because we are the counter measure to this crap that is being spewed to justify bombing millions of people and calling it collateral damage. Garland, when you saw this break, and negotiations were supposed to be underway with Iran, all of a sudden we got the inland drone attack. Did it break your heart? I mean, what went through your mind at that point?
It really infuriated me for this one reason. Number one, they only changed one letter. I mean, they could use like all the same stationery. Iran, cross out the N, Iraq, Iran. Well, weapons of mass destruction. Therefore, we must. They changed one letter, and now they're going to do the exact same thing. So I think one of the things kind of angers me, people who buy into it after all, COVID. I mean, all these things that they've done to us over the course of time. To me, how could you believe them about anything anymore? But it infuriated me because I brought this up on a number of shows, and that is, there is a crime. But it's bad enough. But there's a crime called perfidy. Perfidy. What is it? What was it? Perfidious Albus or whatever that they called the British Empire. But it comes from that. It's perfidy, and that is this. In international law, I cannot do something to draw you in, to make you think you're protected so that I could get an advantage and then attack you, such as I can't put up a white flag so that you guys come in and you think I'm surrendering and then machine gun you. No, that would be putting up a white flag shows that, hey, nobody's going to take action. Here's my point. When Trump said, hey, guys, we're going to meet Sunday. And then Ukraine and the Iranians were like, look, okay, well, we'll make this deal, we'll make that offer, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, if people are going to make it, that's what I want to see. Make an offer, get back to worrying what the hell the people back home are doing. That's what you said you were going to do. Do that, right? And then it's ha. We dragged them in. We told them that we were going to. We suckered them. We lied to them, and then we attacked them. And I thought, you fool. You fool. No one will ever believe a word. Trump's now, the word is that Trump said, yeah, I'm going to make a decision within 2 weeks. I would like to think, okay, well, he's getting a lot of heat. Maybe there's 2 weeks. The first thing I thought was this. He's lying. He's going to attack him tonight. That's just, because once you do that, you can't undo that. And that was like one of the most horrible things, that once you lie and bring somebody in so you can punch them, you can never undo that.
Right, folks, if you think we're just making this stuff up, I'm going to show you this video now, and you guys just draw your own conclusions, because what you're about to see, and credit Judge Napolitano's channel for putting this out there, what you're about to see, I mean, how insulting, how superior to us and condescending are these elites to think we're going to buy this BS that's been floating around for decades. Here you go.
All these utterances.
The deadline for attaining this goal is getting extremely close. And Iran, by the way, is also outpacing Iraq in the development of ballistic missile systems that they hope will reach the eastern seaboard of the United States within 15 years. By next spring, at most, by next summer, at current enrichment rates, they will have finished the medium enrichment and move on to the final stage. From there, it's only a few months, possibly a few weeks, before they get enough enriched uranium for the first bomb. The foremost sponsor of global terrorism could be weeks away from having enough enriched uranium for an entire arsenal of nuclear weapons. That would place a militant Islamic terror regime weeks away from having the fissile material for an entire arsenal of nuclear bombs.
If not stopped, Iran could produce a nuclear weapon in a very short time. It could be a year, it could be within a few months, less than a year.
Thank you, Judge Napolitano, for bringing that to my attention. And Garland, when you see that, what goes through your head?
Well, you know, I used to work on Capitol Hill informally with Congressman John Conyers' office, and I was on Fox News for many, many years. And so I kind of had, green room talks and, inside talks with members of Congress. So a member of Congress who's not alive today, I'll kiss and tell. I'll tell you what this person said to me about Benjamin Netanyahu. A member of Congress said to me that they said, well, we had a hearing in Congress and I said to him, do you want to, who do you want? What countries do you want to attack here? You're saying all these other countries, and they said Netanyahu said to him, Iran, and this was like 20 years ago, more than 20 years ago, Iran. And he tells me, I said to him, well, you're going to attack him, and he said, no, we need you to do it. So Benjamin Netanyahu is saying to U.S., we need you to sacrifice your sons and daughters for whatever the hell I want to dominate the Middle East. Our kids, our sons and daughters, our money, because they've started a war, they're getting blown to hell, and you know who they're going to want. When it comes time, they're going, oh, we got to rebuild bases, rebuild this. That's like $500 billion worth. Guess what? That's going to come out of that's our schools, our money, the things that could happen for us. Hey, we ain't getting that. That's all going to go to Netanyahu and his crew if they don't get us all blown up, killed.
So the big question is, who is really in control of US foreign military policy? Because it seems that Kennedy tried to assert himself over that. We saw what happened to him. Trump came in, said he was the peace president. Is it out of his control and he's just running around now like trying to save face? Is it above him?
Two things I'll say. Number one, yes. And, there are people who say who's in charge. Some people say the Zionists or Israel or the ruling elite. So people have various ways of expressing that the president ain't really in charge. But here's the most important thing. You know what that is? Who's not in charge? And that's the people. That when I go vote for Joe Blow or whatever, did you see Ted Cruz with Tucker Carlson? I used to go on Tucker Carlson's show. I'll say this, and me, I'm a lefty. I don't necessarily agree with Tucker Carlson, but I'm gonna tell you this. I liked him. He's a very nice guy. I used to go on his show. He was one of the nicest, friendliest people you would ever want to meet in your life. I really like Tucker Carlson, right? And I look at Ted Cruz and Tucker Carlson saying, okay, why did you run to be a senator in the United States? To defend Israel. And an American, a conservative American is going to say, I'm a patriot, I'm patriotic, whatever. That's what a conservative American is going to say. You vote for somebody, was it American? Nah, to defend Israel. And so I think there's a conversation that's really starting to arise. And that is, this is not about anti-Semitism. It's not about Judaism or Christianity, or it's about when a person lives in a country and they tell you it's a democracy, what you're led to believe is the people that vote for somebody and that person represents the interests of the voters. When they're not representing the interests of the voters, if it's Israel, if it's the billionaire, whoever it is, the people have a right to make demands and to make changes. And the direction things are going, man, there's going to be uprisings in this country. There's going to be it's going to get bad. People will not continue to put up with this, especially if they start some war and gas is $25 a gallon and our sons and daughters are coming home in body bags. They'll tear this country to shreds. And I don't want to see that happen. But let's be honest about that.
All right, let's assume then there are vested interests more powerful than the president that are controlling military policy. What would you say their objectives are? Because yesterday we looked at the grand chessboard, Brzezinski, and he's talking about an alliance of Russia, China, and Iran being the main threat to US hegemony. So is that perhaps a motivation? Is seizing the oil of Iran perhaps a motivation? In your opinion, how would you list the motivations?
Well, the motivation number one is to control everything. Number one, the whole hegemony be in trouble, and one of the ruling everything in the world. But here's the other part of it that we're dealing with now, and that is we got wars between factions of the ruling elite. We got various, and it's so obvious there are various factions of the ruling elite. You got the ultra Zionists. They're saying no matter what, we got to stand with Israel to the end, whatever Israel wants, right? Then you got another group of people say, China, for God's sake, man, war with China. That's what we got to do. And you got other people saying, Ukraine war. We got to focus on that and take Russia down. So what you have, sadly and unfortunately, might I add, of these three groups, I don't think there's one that's saying, America first. Remember that? Anybody forget that? It's turned into America last. There's none of those groups saying, there's people here in America who have needs and we have a responsibility to them. So we've got factions of the ruling elite basically fighting it out over who to go to war with or who has to be taken down, what chess piece has to be taken down on the grand chessboard next in order for us to maintain hegemony. And the bottom line is this: we're falling fast. Because I'll put it to you like this. Look, if you've got a football team and they're not doing well and they're losing, you could say, we need to maybe get better players. We need to practice. We need to get better coaches. We need to improve our football team. Maybe we need a better offensive strategy. We need a new goalie, whatever, right? You could look at your team and you could say, we have to improve because they're not doing well. Or you could say, let's go to the other team and steal their soccer ball so they can't practice. And then we'll go kidnap their goalie and wait. And none of it is, we need to improve our school systems and put out more people with science degrees. We need to improve our roads. We need some good industry, so that people will have decent jobs here and things like that. None of it is improve our society so we'll better ourselves. It's all, how can we go bang somebody else in the knees with a lead pipe so they can't run? It's insane. And I don't think that's what the average person out here wants. The average person that has 2.5 kids in a minivan, as they say in Maryland, in America, they want their kids to have a good education. They want to be proud. Like me, I have a daughter. I was so proud the day she graduated from college. My daughter was like 22 and she says, I want to get married. And her the young guy was there. And I'm like, okay, only one thing. She said, and they're like, what? And I said, look, I'm fine with it, but she's got to finish and get her degree. And they said, yeah, we're going to do that. That's what people like us want for our children. We want them to live a better life than we have. We want the future to be bright for them. These people don't give a damn about us or our children. And the bad thing about it is this: even if they go out to country X and steal whatever, we ain't even going to get a piece of that anyway. It's not like they're going to go rob the world, steal their gold and uranium, and they're even going to share some with us. No, they're going to put their money in and I'm not saying I'm for that, but you get my point. They're going to go rob everything, and then they're going to put their money in some shell company offshore so they don't even pay taxes here. They don't even want to fix the roads. Nothing.
And these elites think they know it all and they're above consequences. But if you go back hundreds of years, the industrialists behind Hitler, caused the semi-destruction of Germany. The people who financed the Grand Army, they lost out when they went into Russia and it came back decimated, freezing where they lay. Are the elites behind US foreign policy of the same ilk whereby this could all blow back on America?
One way or the other, I think it's in the process of doing it now. You know what I mean? So we can only hope that it doesn't blow back, in a kinetic way. So we have war and death and all of those kinds of things. But right now, they run us $36 trillion in debt. If you think about the trillions that they'd spent in war in the Middle East and all over the place, right? What if they'd done that and say, we're going to build better schools and colleges and roads and things like that. We're going to have programs for people to get jobs or whatever, right? To deal with poverty and deal with all the different things they can, right? We're going to build high-speed rail. I don't know, whatever, right? Our country would look better. It would be cleaner. We'd have less crime. We'd have better educated people. We'd have good ships and schools and planes and trains and automobiles. Instead, they blow it all on war or on money laundering somehow the money into their own pockets. And then we end up with a choice between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump And then Donald Trump does a Zelensky on us where he runs. Zelensky ran on peace. I remember it. I covered that. He ran and said, we've got to have peace with all the regions. And then in no time flat, they're involved in a gigantic war, right? Which is what, like, you guys in London, in England know, for God's sake, look what you've been through. Starmer, Bojo, what's her name? Theresa May. I mean, on and on and on, right? You look at these kind of clowns, Macron and his wife, you know what I mean? You look at these clowns and you're like, we get the stupidest, most inept bunglers, which is exactly what they want because they're nothing but puppets. And then Trump comes in and says, vote for me and I'll put America first. I will deal with your inflation. I'm tired of all of these wars overseas. And a lot of people out of desperation said, well, you know, we don't think Trump's the second coming of FDR by any stretch of the imagination. But hey, after Biden, any place is better than here. So a lot of people vote for Trump and they cross their fingers. And now Trump's out there saying, I don't care what Tulsi Gabbard says. A lot of people have a lot of respect for Tulsi Gabbard in this country. A lot of people have a lot of respect for her. She's been straightforward. This is what I think. This is what I believe. Right? And he's like, who cares what she says? Netanyahu wants war. I think I'm going to go in that direction. And people are, you know, just infuriated, and it's like let the air out of a lot of people who are hoping for anything different. Ain't looking good right now.
We've got almost 1,000 watching live across all platforms. I'm going to put Garland's YouTube channel link in the live chat again. So please support his important work, folks. And I'm absolutely flabbergasted that so many people are buying the BS these evil propagandists are shoving down our throats. And I know you guys, the viewers, you're hip to all of this. But if you know people out there who are buying into this BS, let's remind them, shall we, with a few little clips from recent decades. I'm going to show you a little bit more here, and then we'll get Garland's thoughts. Here we go.
Neither the United States of America nor the world community of nations can tolerate deliberate deception and offensive threats on the part of any nation, large or small.
Every statement I make today is backed up by sources, solid sources. These are not assertions. What we're giving you are facts and conclusions based on solid intelligence. Saddam Hussein and his regime have made no effort to disarm as required by the international community. Saddam Hussein and his regime are concealing their efforts to produce more weapons of mass destruction.
At this hour, American and coalition forces are in the early stages of military operations to disarm Iraq, to free its people, and to defend the world from grave danger.
They have ballistic missiles that can now reach deep into Europe and soon could reach the United States. You want these people to have nuclear weapons and the means to deliver them to your cities? Today it's Tel Aviv, tomorrow it's New York.
So it's not just mainstream media that's got me outraged, Garland. I'm seeing some huge YouTubers with millions of followers, tens of thousands watching these lives, saying stuff like, the people of Iran are dancing in the streets right now because they're about to be liberated. What do you say to these clowns?
Well, you know, they're just puppets for the machine again. And, you know, I remember this is like, what's amazing is that, man, they are just playing the exact same tape over and over again. You know, it's like, I remember, and people can go online and look at this up. It's still there. There's a guy named Tyler Drumheiler. That was his name. He was, Tyler Drumheiler was like the head of the CIA in Europe. And Tyler, it's on, if you can find it right now on YouTube. It was on 60 Minutes. And he goes on there and he says, look, I went in and I talked to Condoleezza Rice and Bush and Cheney and all of them. And I said, look, good news. We've turned somebody over from Saddam's inner circle. We're confident. We talked to him. There's no weapons of mass destruction. We know it for sure. We're confident. And he says, and I expected them to say, yes, great. Well, we can call it off. And he said, they stared at him with a stony, icy stare. And they said, this is not about weapons of mass destruction. This is about regime change, right? Okay. This is about, we've got to stop them from getting, and it's the same thing. But this time we saw it on real time on international television where someone approached him, the Tyler Drumheiler effect, and said, "Hey, Trump, Tulsi Gabbard just said, what?" And Trump's like, "Who cares? They can't have nuclear." Wait a minute. They're not getting nuclear weapons. They don't. According to your own intelligence person, you picked them. The Senate approved them, so you must have thought something of them. And this person said, "Well, I got no evidence right now that they're trying to get nuclear weapons." And when somebody says, "But she told you that," what? And your answer is, "Who cares? We got to stop them from getting nuclear weapons." Really? Even though it's so you look at it and you're like, that's what Tyler Drumheiler saw. That's exactly what he saw. And here's the truth. It ain't about nuclear weapons. This is about regime change. This is about the machine saying, what do you know? They sure got a lot of oil and gas and stuff like that in Iran. We overthrew their country in 52, 53 for the gas and oil. I think that's pretty much, I mean, it's not a shock that every time one of these countries that we want to overthrow, we're making a move on it. They always got oil and gas, or they're on the border of Russia or China or it's some geostrategic advantage. Everybody read this book. Tony Blinken. It's called Ally versus Ally. He spells it out in there about all of this crap. This was in the 80s. He wrote that. And if you read that, you will understand everything that they did. You'll understand why they blew up Nord Stream. And now they want to Nord Stream all of us.
Garland, if the Chinese were bombing your neighborhood and your neighbor's guts were on your backyard wall, would you be dancing in the streets that your regime is getting changed? Or would you be signing up to the military to fight the Chinese?
That's a fact. Exactly. And there's a saying in the Middle East that says, "Me against my brother, me and my brother against my cousin, me and my brother and my cousin against you," right? And which is, and it's simply like, hey, if you attack me, if three guys walk into a bar and you're sitting there having a beer and some guy starts pushing your buddy, the other two are going to say, "Hey, man, come on, chill out, man. This is my buddy. We'll leave, whatever." You might not want any trouble, but you're not going to stand around. And you know what? It may be three of you, and the one guy they're pushing might be a guy. This is my buddy, and this is his buddy. I don't really like the guy that much, but we're all here together. We'll get out of here all together and leave, right? You come in and attack a country. It's absurd to think that you're going to attack a country and that the people are going to side with the attackers. That's absurd, but it's not. But here's the thing, I think. They're not saying it for them, and they're not saying it because they believe it. They're saying it to dupe us. They're saying us to lie to us. They're saying it to propagandize us. When you hear that crazy propaganda like that, it's not for them. They already know better. It's not for the right. You know what I mean? It's, maybe the American people and the people in the West will be stupid enough to buy this again. And we already know no matter what happens, we're going to get screwed. We're going to get screwed. Oil's going to go up. And guess what? We're like, oh, man, I've heard people say they won't do it because the price of oil will go through the roof. And I'm like, do you really think that BP and Exxon Mobil are going to be like, oh, darn, the price of oil went through the roof? No, they're not. They're going to make $1 trillion out of it.
So if you're in a bar and a guy just walks up to you and punches you in the face and you turn around to him and he says, you're like, what did you do that for? And he says to you, "I thought you were going to hit me first. It was a preemptive strike." Does he get a pass for that?
Exactly. Number one. And how about this? If somebody calls the police and the police come in and the police says, "What happened?" And everybody says, "That guy just walked up and punched this guy." And you say, "Hey," the cop says, "What happened?" And he says, "Well, I thought he was going to punch me." The guy's going to get arrested and go. You know what I mean? Under international law, under basically the rules after the Nuremberg trials, the most brutal, vicious, unacceptable crime in humanity is a war of aggression. There are instances where someone can attack another country, but it has to be it's very, you can't just say, "I think that guy's going to get a knife, so yeah, I'll attack him before he gets a knife." And Israel, just said, "We think we can't wait around, so we're going to attack them." And here's what's really diabolical about it. And everybody knows this. Here's what they're really doing. We're going to attack them because we know a couple of days later we'll get the U.S. to come in and finish the job. We know we can't beat them. They're too big for us. We'll get the United States to come in and their sons and daughters will die for us. You're looking at Israel and people are not happy about the leadership of Israel and the direction and the way that they're treating other countries. It's unacceptable. But I get called names. I get called a racist, a white supremacist, an anti-Semite, everything else in the world. If I say, hey, I got problems with the government policy of a particular country, regardless of their religion, they have policies that I'm happy with. Why? Because they affect me and my family and my friends and my country in a negative way. I can't say to my government, yeah, I don't like the way you're dealing with this other country, and I don't like what they're doing because they're affecting our citizens poorly. Well, how dare you say that they might lock me up? Shut my bank account down, throw me off of YouTube and Twitter and everything else because I simply said I don't like what this country's doing, and it's hurt, and it's materially affecting me every day.
They are going to get us all murdered, Garland. I've got a 1-year-old baby here that I do not want to see incinerated in a nuclear war because of the machinations of the globalist elites. Chili Pepper, thank you for the super chat. Seymour Hirsch article about the bombing plans of the US just got released. It's full of too much misinformation, so I won't repost it. It's just the US plans are revealing. And you've got a question here from Anthony. Is it true that the Chinese Navy is headed toward the Middle East?
I haven't heard that. You know, I don't think in the short run, I don't think that the Chinese or the Russians would act kinetically. I don't know. I could be wrong. You know what I mean? I mean, this is dangerous stuff. That's their allies. If China or Russia attacked an ally of the United States, would you say, oh, the United States won't do nothing? They ain't going to worry about that. No. So I don't know what could happen. But here's the other thing. They have other options. What happens if China says to the U.S., you know, we just had some issues with tariffs. Tell you what, we ain't selling you nothing. Nothing. Until this thing is over or longer or whatever, we're not selling you anything. They have cards they could play and really hurt us. So, and yet, would they be wrong? This is their ally. They got the right to say you cannot illegally attack one of our allies. We ain't illegally attack one of yours. You don't illegally attack one of ours. Can't do it. And I mean, it's just, I haven't heard that. Like I said, I don't expect. Here's the thing about it. Iran's pretty strong as far as all of their missiles. They can do some damage. They can do some real damage. Do a lot of things and a lot of economic interest. It's just playing with fire here on so many levels.
So I did a pre-record with Dmitry Orlov today. It's coming out in the next couple of days. And he's saying that China won't put up with this. You know, about a third of the oil comes from Iran and Russia as well. And they're going to keep providing material. And it's not just going to be shock and awe, Iraq, America storms in. The China and Russia not going to allow that to happen. Do you concur with that?
A couple of things. My understanding, my research, this is the numbers that I get from China. They buy 84 to 85% of all of Iran's oil, but that accounts for about 16% of their oil that they get. So it wouldn't end them. But there's other things. Number one, because of the location of Iran, it's very dangerous for Russia, you know, to have the U.S. and its allies right on its back door, again, surrounded and stuff like that. So I don't know, you know, how far they would go. But here's the thing here, you know, when you don't know how far they would go, you're playing with dynamite. Because you really don't know. You could just say, Russia and China are on the phone. They could just say, what are you going to do? All right, here's what we're going to do. If the U.S. attacks, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll blow up all the borders on the Russian base. I'll hit them all with missiles. You hit all of the bases on our borders with missiles. China, you hit all the bases on their borders with missiles. Hey, North Korea, they got bases around there. Smack them with missiles. For all we know, this could be the opening salvo of North Korea. And I say this, you're in Britain, you're in England, right?
Yep.
I don't know how unhappy the people are in England, but I can tell you
this. Very.
If this government did something stupid and they said to the people of America, hey, you know what? We've started a war, and now we're going to draft you and put you in a uniform, and you got to go fight for us. As unhappy as the people are with our government and the way things are going economically, they burn this damn place to the ground. And I imagine the people in Britain, that you're going to tell people in England who are 22 and 25 years old who had an expectation of a certain future, and now that's being snatched from them. And now you're going to do something stupid and say, all right, we're going to put a uniform and you go die in the sands of whoever the hell for this. I suspect they'd burn that damn place to the ground.
Well, we are very disappointed in Starmer, but we're not dancing in the streets for foreign countries to bomb us for regime change. And, you know, it doesn't matter which party gets in, it seems. People are so frustrated here. We've not got any politicians left like the good old Tony Benn, and I'll put his clip up next, and we'll get your thoughts on that.
Of the generation that remember it, the right honourable gentleman served with distinction. Last war, I never killed anyone, but I wore uniform. But I was in London in the Blitz in 1940, living in the Millbank Tower where I was born. Some different ideas have come in since. And every night I went down to the shelter in Thames House. Every morning I saw Dockland burning. 500 people were killed in Westminster one night by a landmine. It was terrifying. Aren't Arabs terrified? Aren't Iraqis terrified? Don't Arab and Iraqi women weep when their children die? Doesn't bombing strengthen their determination? What fools we are to live in a generation for which war is a computer game for our children and just an interesting little Channel 4 news item. Every member of Parliament tonight who votes for the government motion will be consciously and deliberately accepting the responsibility for the deaths of innocent people if the war begins, as I fear it will. Now, that's for their decision to take. But this is a quite unique debate in my parliamentary experience where we're asked to share responsibility for a decision we won't really be taking, with consequences for people who have no part to play in the brutality of the regime which we are dealing with. And I finish with this. On October 24th, 1945, and the former Prime Minister from Bexley, Old Sidcup, will remember it, the United Nations Charter was passed. And the words of that charter etched into my mind and move me even as I think of them. We, the people of the United Nations, determined to save future generations, succeeding generations, from the scourge of war, which twice in our lifetime has caused untold suffering to mankind. That was the pledge of that generation to this generation, and it would be the greatest betrayal of all if we voted to abandon the Charter and take unilateral action and pretend we were doing it in the name of the international community. And I shall vote against the motion for the reasons that I've given them.
Garland, where have all the good old politicians like that gone?
They got ran out of office. A lot of money was changed hands, and they put a bunch of people in office. You know, you listen to that guy, and you're like, man, there's a deep thinker. You know what I mean? That's a deep thinker. And if you listen to Tucker Carlson's discussion with Ted Cruz, what you see is now, and you listen to Starmer and Macron and these people, you listen to Baerbock and Kaja Kallas, and there's like this. There are no deep thinkers. These are the most shallow thinkers. There's no intellectual, philosophical discussion here about a historical context. These are deep thinkers. There was people in office that you may or may not agree with, but they were deep thinkers, and they would have a conversation. And now we got a bunch of stinking clowns running around, making comments that you feel like they're compromised. You feel like they're paid off. You feel like they're just looking out for themselves so they can enrich themselves. And ultimately, we end up with what we have now. It's a sad state of affairs.
So I think it was Colonel Douglas McGregor. He had a theory that if Israel takes so many hits, and it may be by design, that their existence is threatened to the point where they are saying they're going to go nuclear to America. They're telling America we're going to have to go nuclear now. And then, what do you think? Do you think that's a possibility here? And what would happen next?
I think it's possible, but I don't think there will be a nuclear. A lot of people are sure of it, positive, absolutely, because Israel's going down and the U.S. is going to get involved. I don't think they will. I don't think it will. I don't believe that it will. I may be wrong. I feel that ultimately the people who are running Israel, they're kind of cowardly and they want to survive. That they're afraid and that they're going to. I think it will get resolved. I think the only as angry as I am at Donald Trump right now, and I am angry at Donald Trump because come on, man, you ran and you said something differently. You know what I mean? You said you were going to do the opposite. Let me at least say one thing that I think is positive. The one thing about Donald Trump is this. You can't corner Donald Trump for this reason, because he doesn't really care. It's like literally they will say to Donald Trump, you said that Zelensky was a dictator last week. What do you have to say? And Donald Trump will say, did I say that? Like, you can't really corner the guy because he doesn't really care. And he'll just so if there was anybody who really could get out of it, Donald Trump can get out of it, because if they say to Trump, well, you said you were going to do this, if they didn't do that, and Trump will just say, did I say that? I don't remember that. Oh, me and the Ayatollah are best of friends. So at least there's a possibility of a way out here, where with a lot of people there would be no possibility of a way out. So there's a possibility. So I like to try to keep a positive attitude, but I don't think there'll be a nuclear exchange, because rich people and billionaires have a certain level of privilege. And a nuclear, as Steve Witkoff said, if one nuclear bomb drops anywhere, all markets collapse. And even if there's not a big exchange and everything, all markets collapse. The whole oil industry collapses, and all of these people. You know what? I can't lose $100 million because I ain't got $100 million. But if you got $100 million, that's a lot of money to lose. You got billions of dollars. That's a lot of money to lose. The people that have $1 billion and $100 million don't want to lose that. And I think that could maybe be the only thing that helps us get out of it. I feel like we will get out of it. But if Trump goes in, I think you're looking at really bad economic situation because of what's going to happen in the oil market.
But these people are so sinister, they could short the market and make money from it going down.
Yes. Certainly. All we have to do, and they throw me off of YouTube if I said, but all you have to do is look at COVID and the kind of things that were done to make money. The kind of things that were done that we won't necessarily discuss, but there were things that were done that, one could look at that and say, you're not acting in the best interest of the health of your population, but or your economy. We're still paying the price economically for policies. So yeah, they will certainly make decisions that hurt people, but I just think the world is their playground, and they don't really want to screw up their playground with all the money they got. So I feel like we will get out of this without a nuclear exchange, but how things are going to turn out, I don't know. It could go bad.
Nathan wants to know, will the UK get involved? They're already deeply involved, I believe.
Yeah, exactly. They are very, very deeply involved. There's nothing that the U.S. doesn't do that the UK doesn't have a hand in it. I actually feel like that with a lot of things, there's the U.S., we're going to do this part of it, kind of like we build in a house, you build the floor, I'll build the walls, that guy's going to put in the driveway, blah, blah, blah. And that the U.S. and some of its quote allies, that's the way they operate. As an example, France stole a lot of gold and uranium and stuff